Without the right people, systems, culture, and processes, nearly 40% of transformation programs fail. Whether you're using Hoshin Kanri, OGSM, OKR, or MBO, or something unique to your business, there's always one golden thread: rigor. Today, over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be exploring a key planning tool for any strategy, the X Matrix, and how it can transform from uninspiring, disconnected Excel files into a connected digital format within the i-nexus platform. I'm your host, James Milson, and here today I'm joined by the voice of X Matrix, Matt Fleming, who's the head of our pre-sales team and someone who's worked with our customers for a very, very long time. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll be covering how to articulate your true north, breakthrough horizons, how objectives character can impact their cascade, who owns those objectives, and how you can feed levers and company values into the plan. This is a session for those of you who, like Matt and myself, know all too well the limits of planning in Excel and PowerPoint. Our discussion will use Matt's experiences of running similar sessions to show the simplicity and really the benefits of digitalizing the X Matrix, ensuring your implementation is well planned and truly execution ready. If you have any questions as we go along, please do let us know after the session is finished over at info@i-nexus.com. For any of the templates we use today, blogs, ebooks, and more, head on over to i-nexus.com and visit our resource center. So let's get started. Hi, Matt.
Hello, James. Good to be here.
Lovely to have you. So before we go into looking at i-nexus today, I just wanted to cover off a couple of different questions that we frequently get about the X Matrix.
Sure.
So the X Matrix is designed to help with a key foundation of strategy execution, the planning phase. Why is the X Matrix an effective tool for planning your strategy?
I think there's three real aspects of the X Matrix. It can help ensure your organization is lean and aligned and doing the things that truly help to achieve the vision. And those three things are alignment, so the connections from each objective at each level link up until we eventually get to the true north, so you can see what each objective links to. Accountability, so it very nicely visualizes the ownership of each of the deliverables in the plan, so you can set clear accountability. And then measurement, so it prompts you to think about the connections to the measurement system and how you're going to measure whether your objective is on track, which becomes critical then in the execution phase. So it's easy to spot where things don't contribute, easy to spot where measures are missing, easy to spot and assess whether the plan is lean. And for contributors, they can see right up to the true north why their objective, why their activity is important.
Great, thank you. So with all these benefits that you've just covered there, one of the questions that we do get asked quite a lot is really, do you have to be applying Hoshin Kanri as a methodology, or can you use the X Matrix as part of whatever framework or approach that you are using within your business?
So yeah, really great question, and we get asked this a lot. When you see an X Matrix like this for the first time, it's easy to get kind of overwhelmed by what you're looking at. But in actual fact, you do not have to be a Hoshin junkie to use the X Matrix in planning. If you think about it, planning is really, really simple. Where are we going? What are we actually trying to achieve? What's the result we want? What do we need to do? What are the actions and projects to get there? And who's owning those actions? And then how will we know if we're on track or if we actually get to where we want to get to? What are the measures? And then when you're in the execution of the plan, once you've got that lined up, visibility, what would be impacted if we change direction? A pretty topical thing this year. So those basics of planning are really, really clear, and the X Matrix lays them out in a beautiful, simple format. So we find that even people who aren't well versed in the Hoshin Kanri, who are used to planning in a traditional scorecard method, actually gravitate towards and like building up their plan in the X Matrix once they get the hang of it, because it makes all of those things crystal clear.
Thank you. So obviously today we're going to be running through how to take the Excel X Matrix and put it into i-nexus. Why would a business be looking for a platform such as i-nexus to digitalize the X Matrix?
Yeah, another great question. So if we think about who comes to us, it's about 50-50 in terms of the split between those who are doing Hoshin now and doing it usually in Excel, and those who are embarking on Hoshin, or they've recently had a leadership decision to go down the Hoshin route and who want to start right first time and have the right tools from the get-go. And for those who have been working in Excel before now, and there are probably many of you on this call, you'll be familiar to all of the Excel tabs and sheets that you have, as you have the X matrices for maybe your function, and then the units below that, and potentially the units below that. It can become quite a challenge to join all those Excel sheets up and check that they're aligned. And then, of course, when you get into Catchball for the following year's plan, you're doubling up. So if you have 20 spreadsheets now, you're going to have 40 as you're planning next year's plan whilst you deliver the end of this one. And then there's the bowling charts and so on. So our customers are often in that, in inverted commas, Excel hell, managing that, and they want to see the join up. For those that are embarking on it for the first time, they just want to have the right tools in place. And I think the final thing to say is the digitalization agenda. That's been out there for a few years now, right, James? So
Yep.
We've all been talking about what we can digitalize, and I think a lot of customers, you've digitalized your project management and collaboration tools. You've maybe got your operational metrics and BI sorted out. Why is the strategy still on the Excel sheets and the PowerPoints? We want to digitalize that too. So, if you are looking to gradually digitalize your organization, this is the bit where you can put your strategy into that roadmap.
Great. So, as we mentioned in the get-go, this is going to be a hopefully sub 30-minute process that Matt's going to take us through.
Okay.
So, Matt, do you have that Excel spreadsheet with you?
I do indeed. So let me just flip to that now. Hold on. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Great. So we've got a classic Excel sheet here. Hopefully there are some nods on the webinar in terms of what you're seeing. So we've got a X matrix and a bowling chart here, and then an X matrix for some of our other units all spreading along the side. And we've gone with, there are lots of different formats. Here we have corporate breakthroughs, annual objectives, my top level improvement priorities for this, and the targets to improve, or the KPIs with accountability shown here. We see lots of formats. This is our template version, which you can find on the website, and Vision and Mission in the North. So we have a bowling chart here as well. And just to show you what James is talking about, what we're going to be moving into is we've got a blank X matrix here, starting with our True North. We're going to be moving into the system and have a digital version in i-nexus by the end of the session.
Fantastic. So, Matt, are you ready?
As I'll ever be, James, I think. Let's go.
Great. So we're gonna follow the 7 steps that you typically hear about in the Hoshin process. So that begins with the True North. That's all about really setting course, right, Matt? And it's a combination of your business's mission, culture, policies, and strategic vision.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Matt, if the vision is the destination that we want to reach, and the mission is really describing how we get there, how does that translate into this Hoshin concept of True North?
Well, True North is really the holy grail. It's where you're trying to take the organization, and it's usually very well understood through the organization. It's on the posters and so on. Many of our customers just put in the vision, but many of our customers have the mission as well. As we go down through the Hoshin plan, we're going to be very focused on making sure that the objectives throughout are really smart and measurable. And to get a single nice joined up True North statement, if you're coming from the place where you have a vision and a mission, it can be a simple case of combining the two. So we can see our company here has a vision to bring joy to customers worldwide through best-in-class products that enhance people's lives. And we're going to do that in terms of our mission by delivering sensationally tasting product experiences which give joy and promote well-being in our customers through sustainable and ethically responsible means. If anyone hasn't guessed yet, we're manufacturing beverages in this example. So that's what those are referring to. But we can easily join those into almost an objective-like True North statement by simply linking them together. So bring joy to customers worldwide through best-in-class products by delivering sensationally tasting product experiences. That will nicely combine our mission and our vision. and give us a nice, succinct true north statement. So you don't have to do this, but that's always my my preferred way to approach it.
Great, thank you. So as you can see in front of you, Matt is doing this within obviously the i-nexus platform, and now in front of us we can see that true north. Step 2 of the process is where we begin to look at breakthrough objectives. Those are those typical 3 to 5 year targets that look to move your business forwards towards achieving its vision. It's all about going out of your comfort zone and your typical daily management activities to get that true step change in performance. So Matt, I've got a question for you here. With how the 2020s have played out with businesses like WeWork and those in the hospitality industry, they've struggled but also adapted because of COVID-19. You would imagine that the planning horizons they were working towards were those 3 to 5 year sort of duration. But are those horizons still relevant, 3 to 5 years, or is something really needing to change in that area?
Absolutely they are. And by the way, we see different planning horizons. Some of our companies have 7 to 10 years, for example. But yeah, a longer range horizon is relevant, absolutely. So yes, we've all had a classic kind of punch in the mouth moment with the COVID pandemic this year. So we've seen whole customers just literally put their business on hold in areas like airline services and hospitality. It's been huge disruption, and people have had to focus in on the firefight, on the short term, on the survival, simply in some cases. But on the flip side of that, connecting today's objectives to the longer term strategy is just too important to forget about entirely. So there's quite a body of literature out there now around how those that are going to do better in the medium to long term are precisely those companies that haven't taken their eye off that longer term strategy. And another way to think about this is that when your certainties evaporate around you and you're faced with a major change in sort of the realities of your market and so on, that is precisely the point where you need to consider how you adapt for alternative futures, and precisely the point where those other capabilities and strategies you're working on will come into play. So in some ways, innovation and longer range planning are even more important. And just a final thing, just while we talk about COVID, there's been a really interesting trend towards now less of the annual planning, but more of an always on planning approach. Gartner are calling this adaptive strategy at the moment, in place of that, even the traditional annual planning cycle, precisely to build in more strategy focus and agility into organizations so that we can better respond to this sort of thing again. So in some ways, that's almost the more interesting trend to come out of this COVID situation.
Absolutely, it's fascinating. So Matt, what I've just noticed there is that we've got, I think, 6 breakthrough objectives. Is that too many? Is that too little? What would you normally recommend in terms of the number of breakthroughs?
So the textbook answer is 3 to 5, but it's going to depend a little bit on the nature of your organization, on the size of your organization. So yes, ideally you'd have 5. Here they have 6. You'd look at this with a critical eye and maybe say that market share and revenue look a little bit similar. Could they be combined? The main thing is we can't have too many areas of focus, but a bit like if you ever use the balanced scorecard from Kaplan and Norton, you're not locked into the 4 traditional perspectives. You do need to flex a bit with your business. So 6 or 7, I wouldn't be losing sleep. If you've got 10 or 15 here, then I'd be asking serious questions about whether you can truly focus on those as an organization.
Thank you. So as Matt is just finishing out the metrics associated with those breakthroughs, we now begin to think about moving towards our annual focus. A great feature of the i-nexus X matrix is that you can easily rotate it. Everything that you're doing here is within one system that everyone collaborates on. It's a small thing, the rotation, but it's one of those benefits that really can change your focus, and it's a crucial part of the process. So Matt is just about to flip the X matrix for us.
Okay. And just as I do that, James, it's worth pointing out that if we go back to that traditional Excel sheet, you're locked into the 4 sides, as you said. So yes, we've got breakthroughs here, and a lot of these breakthroughs are very strong. They're very measurable: market share, revenue. So we might want to actually have the targeted KPIs alongside those. Also, we can't see the accountability. In some models, we see that mapped over down here on the southeast, but we don't easily see the accountability at the breakthrough level. We've certainly got it at the improvement priority level. What we're able to do here, and what I would suggest to this business, is that we could actually put in the metrics that track those breakthroughs and map them. And obviously we can't see the accountability on this X matrix, but we could be asking the question, who is actually owning these longer term breakthrough objectives, and we could be adding the management team here over on the right hand side. And we could do that again, as you've pointed out, now at the annual level.
Great, thank you. So Matt, as you're going about translating these annual objectives from the Excel spreadsheet into the i-nexus platform, can you just speak a little bit about what we're seeing right here and in front of us, and some observation that you might have about the health of the X matrix?
Yeah, of course, and thankfully there's a little bit of work I've done earlier on this bit as well. So we'll flip over to that. So just go to my notes here. I've pointed out a few things around the health, and we're not consultants at i-nexus, but we've got a lot of experience of putting things into practice. And actually, the important thing about the planning process is the learning through the doing. And without knowing whether these are good strategies or good levers or good things to pull, we can still make some comments on whether it's set up well to succeed. So we pointed out how there were 2 breakthroughs, highlighted that here. In the annuals, we've just hit a really common problem. So we've got some nice annual objectives: scale up production capacity. That's in pursuit of our revenue and market share, as we would expect. We want to scale up by 25%, so nice and measurable. De-risk supply chain, pretty topical at the moment. But then we're getting down here to some things that feel a little bit more like pillars. So we've got sustainable supply chain, lean operations, talent development. Now, if you're coming from a traditional scorecard planning method, and you've got strategic pillars, or you've got a strategy house, when you move to X matrix, it's often, where do I put those things? Because clearly these levers are important. I need everybody to respond to the challenge of smart manufacturing, of lean operations, of talent development, but they don't formulate sort of smart, achievable objectives in themselves. So where can I put these levers? So from our point of view, we can put them in as filters on the X matrix, and I've actually put them in advance. I've built these in as themes, so we can stick to smart and achievable objectives, and then we can assign those objectives to the theme. So we can look at the X matrix from a talent management perspective or a lean operations perspective, just like you would look at the different perspectives of a scorecard. And then we can keep the annual objectives very smart and achievable. So I'm going to put these in here for now, but I would make the observation that, how do you achieve smart manufacturing? What's the, by when, what's the measure to say you got there? These feel a lot more like themes to me. So we would work on the detail of those objectives a little bit. And then if we just come around, this is the beauty of Hoshin planning. We can see the gaps. So we've got 2 annual objectives here with no improvement priorities linked to them. And we've got 2 sort of fairly major improvements going on with no link to the annual objectives. So automation and online ordering systems sound like good things. So where do they link in? Or if they don't link in, however good they sound, we should probably question whether we should be doing those if it's not a true part of our plan. And over here on the east, you can also see we're lacking a measure for that automation metric. We are also lacking a measure for these 2. Planned expansion site in APAC, new factory in EMEA. I'm much less worried about those because objectives sometimes don't have obvious KPIs to go with them. Sometimes they're just about the building the plant or launching the new project, the achievement of the work underneath. So I wouldn't expect to see a TTI or a KPI here. I would just expect to measure that objective by the progress of the projects to their committed dates. And then finally over here we can see we've got an objective with no ownership, an improvement with no ownership here, the carbonation process. Sounds important for a beverages company. So who is actually owning that? And then, you know, a slightly different problem. Frederick Winslow Taylor on our management team has got 4 top-level improvement priorities. Now, I don't know, you'll know the local conditions, but you know, it sounds like a lot. We want people to be focused on owning 1 or 2 things that they could truly achieve. So those are some of the observations around the health as we go through. That we would pick up with the team at the end of the exercise.
Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. So are you now ready to move on to the top level improvement priorities?
Yes, we're going to do just a quick bit of linking here, if that's okay.
Yep.
I'm going to link revenue, lean operations. I'll pop that in here and here, smart manufacturing. We may need to tidy up some of these a little later on. And again, just to say, we can't see on this Excel sheet who owns these annual objectives, but in i-nexus, we could give them a very clear ownership, and we could maybe give them metrics. So scale up production capacity. Let's measure the production capacity. And I'll put a question mark in there for the team. Okay, let's go to the top level then, James.
Okay. So Matt, we've just fast forward there to save a bit of time around the improvement priorities and adding in the management team. But an initial observation we can see here with the improvement priorities is that they look a lot clearer than the annual objectives. Why is that? So
yeah, it's a classic situation. It's very common when we go into a business to see that the vision, the mission, the true north, the strategic pillars are really clearly defined by the top level management team and well associated throughout the business. And then people are also very clear on what their focus is right now. So what the projects that we're now at the top level, these are projects and things that people are working on today, this quarter, this year, and they're going to be a lot better defined. Otherwise, they can't be delivered. The problem and the beauty of the X matrix in terms of its value to you is bridging the gap between the things that people have got in front of their nose that they're all very clear on, and how they link up to the actual direction, whether those things you're working on are the right things based on the breakthroughs and the annual objectives, and why they matter and why they're important. So yes, it's very common for us to have very strong breakthroughs and vision, very strong list of current improvement priorities and initiatives, because that's what people are working on, and bridging this gap between the two is the secret sauce to making sure you're truly working on the right things and going the right way.
Thank you. So Matt, should we now move on to look at the KPIs?
Yeah, so as you've seen, I've just brought in a number of KPIs here that are measuring these. I'm just linking them up now to where they fit against the top level improvement priorities. So this is the bit of the Excel where things are really very nicely measurable. And I'm just linking up these final two here. The other thing we've done is we brought in the team. So we've got quite a high-powered management team here, and we're just going to make these assignments over in the Far East. So remember Frederick Winslow Taylor, who has a lot of the initiatives, online ordering, carbon neutral, new factory, and plant expansion. So let's give those to him now. So there's online ordering, expansion, the new factory. Okay. We're just assigning those out. So we definitely want to ask the question whether he's going to be able to take on all of those things. Shigeo Shingo's taken over the lean business system, so we'd expect that to be really, really, really good. Okay, so we'd be setting the accountability over here in the Far East. And as I continue to do that, do you have any more questions?
I do. So when you're setting your KPIs with the X matrix, what are some pointers that you'd be offering to our attendees today?
So yeah, I think often we see situations where the KPIs and the objectives can be easily confused. And I'll give you an example here, actually. So we've got a top level improvement, which is online ordering system. And then the KPI, or the TTI, if you like, because it's phrased that way, is 20% online orders by end of 2021. I would be thinking about flipping those. 20% online orders is by end of 2021 is a beautifully smart, measurable, time-based objective. And you could think about, effectively, let's do it live now, making that the objective that you're really shooting for. And then the KPI is really just the thing that you're measuring. So what we're actually measuring is the percentage of orders online, and our target against that is 20% from our jump off point. And if we went into this, we can actually define our jump off point and goal here. So when you're at a high level of planning, you're just trying to figure out what objectives, what targets you want to set. We generally see starting off with just a rough idea of jump off point, where we are today, and goal where we want to get to. And then through the catchball process, we'll be able to get a sense of whether that's truly realistic and so on. And by the time we come to executing, we can actually put in our actual full targets into the worksheet, month-to-month targets, and ramp them up. So that's something we'd usually do by integration in an i-nexus sense, but we could also upload our targets into the worksheet there as well. So rough cut and then detail later, so that you can get moving on that. And then one thing, if I'd be permitted, there's a really brilliant thought that's worth thinking about. It's very easy to pick a target. We want to improve our on-time delivery by X or our yield by Y. And of course, everybody should be measuring those things and should be monitoring that throughout your supply chain in this example. But think about for a moment the strategic cascade. If you're looking for a step change in online order delivery on time, that's really the objective. The KPI for each plant, if you were to cascade the KPI, that might not be beautifully relevant for each of the people within the plants themselves. In one plant, on time and full delivery might be the perfect KPI to measure a step change in delivery performance. In another plant where the challenges and the customers are slightly different, there may be a better KPI to measure against that objective. So one thing that's worth bearing in mind is is it right for you to be cascading this KPI target, or should you be cascading the objective and giving the local team the option to choose a KPI that would best reflect the progress towards that objective based on their local conditions? So think about cascading objectives and not necessarily cascading KPI targets.
Great, thank you, Matt. That's a that's a really insightful comment you made there about the cascade. So I think at this stage, Matt has done a very, very good job in terms of translating the X matrix from Excel to i-nexus. Matt, as we step back a second, I'd like to just ask you a question about levels and depth of the X matrix. I'd be interested to know really what you feel the limit should be for the depth. Obviously, it's a paradigm shifting tool, what we've got here, and there's a lot of benefits that come with it, but sometimes too much change can overwhelm. What do you typically see from businesses that you're talking to?
So there's a crawl, walk, run approach to take with Hoshin. And often we see that, when you get this process going, it's good to start with the top levels of management and get it embedded and get that monthly habit of reporting and looking ahead and really focusing on the strategy going before you sort of cascade all the way down the organization, because that's a big change management challenge. So usually we would be advising for organizations embarking on this, start by taking it down to your divisional or regional function heads, then take it maybe down to the plants or the teams within those functions. But do that gradually. The other aspect of this to think about is that there's a lot of change here in terms of the transparency of the things people are working on and their performance towards those things. And you need to bear in mind the maturity and the culture, the other things that your organization has on its plate as you lay out that roadmap. Think about pulling it down gradually. In terms of the future, we've got organizations that have done 5 to 6 levels that are operating really, really well. But it's worth bearing in mind that as you go down through the levels, and we can go down as many as we like technically, you find that more and more day-to-day, daily management, non-strategic things start to drift in. And the organizations we work with that have had the best success with this have kept it lean and focused on the truly strategic things, and kept the operational day-to-day in some of their other management systems.
Thank you. So Matt, obviously what we've been looking at today is all about the planning aspect and the execution aspect of the X matrix. I know that we're focused on the X matrix, but I do think it's worthwhile just briefly mentioning the review aspect of the X matrix. So what would you say is the typical review process of an X matrix?
Sure. So once your plan is established, you're going to be living much more so in the bowling chart. So if we go back to our Excel sheet here, we've also got our bowler. And I had a couple of questions here. We've got some things in our bowler which aren't on our strategy, which would be worth pointing out to this particular management team. So we're going to monitor the results, if you like, month to month, and we're going to expect action plans and countermeasures to be linked into those. And the action plans are often on additional tabs in your spreadsheet. So in i-nexus, the bowler looks like this. So this is a test to see how this is displayed. And it's come out in a, let me just collapse it up so we can see it quite clearly. So there we go. There was our true north. Here are our breakthrough objectives. We've still got the 6 at the moment. And if we dive into any particular one of those, so market share, we get to the annual objectives that are linked into it. Okay, so here we've got the APAC market, scale up production capacity, and then top level improvement priorities linked to that. And then within each of those, the KPIs that link to that. So as we review, we'll be able to look at this bowler, see where we are month to month with traffic lighted performance. And we're going to get commentary from each of the objective owners and initiative owners, and in some cases, TTI and KPI owners as well, on where they are each month. So we'll set up a cadence where they are notified that it's time to do their review, they get their data in or check their results, and they leave a commentary that leaves us going into the meeting ready to talk about why things are red and green in terms of their position in the bowling chart.
Lovely, thank you. So we've now come to the end of our challenge here for Matt. He has actually done this in under 30 minutes. So well done, Matt.
With a slight time lapse.
Well, of course. What we've seen here is really what I would consider quite a step change from how we typically manage our X matrix in Excel and putting it into i-nexus. Obviously, Matt has done this in time constraints, and there's a lot more thinking behind it than what you've seen in front of you. Whether it's critical thinking around objectives, the frequency of planning, or how to communicate with this with your business. The i-nexus digitalization of the X matrix exists to help you to have those sort of conversations with more rigor and more structure. And it's through those sort of that rigor and structure that you can move your organization closer to being successful with executing a strategy. So thank you everyone for watching today's session. We hope you found it enjoyable. Matt, thank you for taking the time to run through this exercise.
Excellent. I hope that was useful for everyone.
As a reminder, for more information on the X matrix and the supporting tools, be sure to visit i-nexus.com and look at the resource page. If you've got any questions from this session, we'd love to hear from you. And you can do so by letting us know over at info@i-nexus.com. He has been Matt Fleming. I've been James Milsom, and we're out of time. Thank you for joining.